Hi everyone, thanks for stopping by Pete's Garage. Now in this video I'm going to show you the basic steps or what you can expect when you want to change a fender on your own car. So you have a small accident and you want to fix it yourself to save some money. And should you do it? Absolutely. Can you do it? Absolutely. Here's a small accident that I recently had, and I took it to a shop for a quote, and you can see it was almost $1,400 for the quote. Now, even if your deductible is $1,000, you can still save money by doing this yourself, and it really is not that difficult. So first, you're going to have to find a replacement fender. I could have bought a new one, which was close to $400. It's actually $386, or you can get one from a salvage yard. Now, if your vehicle is 5 years or older, 5 years old or older, I've been having a lot of luck finding replacement parts in salvage yards. Not only that, for all the work that I've done on vehicles that are 5 years and older where I can find a part in a salvage yard, almost half the time I get it from the salvage yard painted the correct color, so I don't even have to paint it. I just take it, it's the same year, the color matches, and I just change the part. So here's my replacement fender. I got it at a salvage yard for only 90 bucks, 98 with tax, and it's in pretty rough shape here. It's got some scratches in it along the side here, along the top. So I want to make some quick work of this. So I'm going to wet sand it with some 240 grit, sand the entire thing, including the edges and the top. So when I paint it and install it, you don't have any risk of the paint peeling off. Now that the surface is sanded, I'm going to clean it thoroughly with a prep ball. This is a degreaser, make sure the surface is free of grease. Then I'm going to apply a coat of this primer. It's a high build primer. It's an SEM product, and it's kind of expensive, but it's worth it. It's 20 bucks a can, but it's a high build, which means it's going to fill in all these little scratches that are in here, and I can put a coat on the entire fender. When I focus on these little scratches, I can fill those in, and then when I final sand the entire fender, it'll be glass smooth, ready for paint. I'm gonna hit it really quick with a 240 just to get it even. Go to 360 and final sand with 400. Well, now you have to paint the part, and you have a bunch of options. You could go to any auto parts store and pick up a can of paint, regular spray paint, for the color code for the vehicle, and just spray it like that. And it'll work perfectly fine, it'll look fine, and you can do that. If you want to step up a little bit more, you can go to a automotive supply, paint supply store, a jobber, which mixes paint, and you give them your paint code and they'll mix up paint. Now for this fender, I want to match the color more accurately, and I like a Spies Heckler paint, but I've used a lot of DuPont Chroma Bases, and the more generic version is a Nason, or Metalux is a more generic version, so you can buy some very inexpensive paints and do it yourself. You can even go to Harbor Freight when you're ready to paint and buy a spray gun for 20 bucks, and you're still going to save money. And for the clear, I use a Nason Select Clear. It's fairly inexpensive, and you can buy it in small amounts, and it produces a great result. Now, in order to show that you don't need an expensive spray booth to get great results, I'm just going to spray this in a regular garage, right where I sand. I'm going to spray it right there, put on some base coat, let it flash off, then I'll put on the clear coat. Ready and painted, let's change it. Remove the tire and support the car with the jack stand. Put masking tape around all the edges of the fender because the edges of the new one will be sharp. Look around the fender that you have that you're going to put on and understand where all the fasteners are, and realize that some of them may be inside panels. You might have to take off other little pieces of plastic to get to them, but once you understand where they are and have an idea whether they're screws or plastic plugs or rivets, you'll have a better idea and it'll be easier to take the old one off. Now that you know where all the fasteners are, remove all the small trim pieces that expose all of the screws. When you take off your fender and wheel well, you run into a bunch of different types of fasteners. You'll run into regular bolts like this, which are just hex head with a washer on it, or it'll be a pointy type screw with a hex head on it, and these are usually 6mm, 10mm, and 13mm. The next one you'll run into are these black button type fasteners. These are plugs that have serrations on there, and when you push the plug into the hole, these serrations hold it in place. And to get those off of there, you could do a couple things. You could use a screwdriver and get underneath here and just try to pry it up, but if you get a screwdriver underneath there and you pry on this, you run the risk of ripping this plastic head right off of that serration. So if you have a different tool, if you can find a different tool, I use a tool that looks like this. It gets so you can get underneath there, and once you get under there, it's got more surface area, so when you get behind it and you pry it up, it pulls it out a little easier, pulls it out straighter too. You don't want to pull on an angle, you want to try and lift it straight out. The last one you'll run into looks like a plug like this, and these, the way these hold is that the center part pushes up, and if you look around the outside you'll see that there'll be a little gap, and if you put a screwdriver in that little gap, you can take that fastener and you lift it up, and when you lift it up it pulls out of the fastener a little bit, and this allows us to spread open like that. And then when you want to put it back in, you just push this together, push it back in the hole, and when you push this down it spreads back open, and that's what holds it in place. The front bumper cover usually snaps right out, and once you get that disconnected, you can get all the screws behind it and you can continue taking the fender off. The fastening clip for the front bumper cover is held on with rivets, so those rivets have to be drilled out and put on the new fender with fresh rivets. Take your time putting the new fender on, make sure all the fastener and screw holes line up, and get them all in place before you tighten anything up. Once you have all the fasteners in place, you can start to do your final alignment. The fenders are pretty thin and you'll have to do some bending. Be careful you don't push it too hard and cause another dent. Alignment looks good, tighten up all the bolts, install all the fasteners, put in the inner wheel well, and you're all done. Congratulations, you have successfully changed your fender. Now here's how the math works out. It was a $1,400 quote. The fender was $100. It's about $100 for materials, for paints, and even if you have to buy some tools for another $50, that's only $250 to change your own fender. You can save a lot of money by doing it, and it's something you can absolutely do by yourself. Thanks for stopping by Pete's Garage.